Se fitu minute o te ele tu la e lima, 17 minutes after 5 here on the 685 show. PMN Samoa, 5:31 PI. Leo tātou tau mai i le tātou porkalame le Humble Chats, mo le nea fiafi. Very excited to host our Humble Chat segment for this afternoon. Our guest is joining us all the way from American Samoa. Today we are catching up with the wonderful Pauliana Angel Felise-Vitale, former Miss American Samoa, as she shares her life, what life has been like after her reign. And we get to talk a bit more about some of the community work that she's doing, introducing her brand new program, Faasoa Mai, to share. So without further ado, i le avatele ma le whaaloalo e te tau ai, iau te whawhelo iatu, ia mwhatalo whātu, ia i le tomaita ia Pauliana Angel Felise-Vitale i le nei a fiafi malo lava le soifua manuia Pauliana.
Malo lani whaftai lava. Ia e tatonu ele i alu loa le ta forsanga i le nei. Tu la le afiafi e au ina whata alofa ma whawhiloa i atu i le alofa malanga leo te pa ausilio langi i le nei fo i vaenga le afiafi.
Yeah.
Ia le mai mua whafonga mai fo i o Samoa na lua. Ia tu mua mpule whaapea tutuila mamalua nei.
Yeah.
Ia mai se fo i le atu no uolo whaapea ona whaamautu wai le po kalame o le PMN News i Aotearoa. Ia o pa ia lava mai le vavau se i o whaavau no atu i whaatini o tausala. Ta tono le ale so ono o ia i sau whaatau wa aina mea ane ua vea malape o ta mawhtanga i lunga polo kalame nei. Ai soi fo manuia. Whaatai lava mo le nei awa noa whaaro ua e manatu mai fo i le toa fine. I le nei fo i tua tata wa inga a wa fo i sta Faasoa.
Alie, alai loa lava. Ia, te tonu ta mai atasi ia pe ona iai lau sau noanga. Ia, o i tu te telefoi ma ni au i tu tau langi. Ia, ele ngā whatau lima ina, ele au auna, ia, ai te tonu. Ia, o mai atasi ia tātou. Ia, il si le whanga le atua, le whanau le atua. Ia, au tūr ta maftanga i le nea fiafi. It's great to have you with us, sis. Before we get into the business side of things, as we do with all of our guests, yeah, to atu le wanoa, to introduce yourself. And maybe for some of our listeners and those who are tuning in who may not know who Pauliana is or may have seen the face but just trying to figure out, I know I've seen her from somewhere. To atu le wanoa, whailoa oi, who you are, where you're from, who you represent, and all of that good stuff. Yeah, tā te lei se atuloa i le tā whātalononga nea fiafi.
Ioi. Ia e ta tono o filongia fo i le whaafonga mai o tangata i le nei tu la le afiafi o whamalulu atuai o le a whaapertania ta i la o whamatalanga i le nei taimi ia.
Yeah.
My name is Pauliana. I've grown up going by Angel, former Miss American Samoa 2024, 2025. And yes, I recently just handed over my crown in June and just continuing to do community work here in American Samoa. So that might be where most people know me from is have carrying the title of Miss American Samoa for the last year.
And for any family members who might be listening in, pe mawhaiona whailo i whioanga e te whio mai ai, Angel?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I am from the villages of Pangpango, Ilili, and Sailele. But e ai whai au i tu i sa fungi sa vai, i le whangoli, i a whapea fui a sale moa, i Upolu.
Malo.
And I think I have some family, they might be tuning in, Auntie Ifo. Hi, Auntie Ifo.
Yeah, man.
If
Make
you're
the most of it.
listening.
Hi, Auntie.
They're in Aotearoa. Yes. They're in New Zealand right now. They might be
Malo.
listening in.
That's cool, man. Malo whaftai. Yeah. Look, getting, straight into it. Most will know you as Angel. Some will know you as Pauliana. But in your role as Miss American Samoa for the past year, beyond the sash and beyond the crown and um, the work that you do, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us about your upbringing and what that was like for you, schooling and your faith and that kind of thing.
Yes, so I grew up in American Samoa for the most part of my life before I moved to Hawaii to continue my education. Um, I have a background in a Catholic. I'm Catholic. I grew up Catholic here in American Samoa. And I went to school up until my freshman year 9 in high school before I moved to Hawaii. Ia whaawawaila ia le aonga maulunga i Chaminade University of Honolulu, where I study history and political studies.
Mm,
Um, Le wangalo ako lo fesili le ngai fesili mai ai, but I grew up in a very traditional Samoan household.
right.
I grew up with two sets of parents. It was one of those things, where
Yeah.
Samoan families will lend a hand in raising you. And so
Of course.
I grew up with very traditional moms and dads. My father was a working chief, a matai in the village of Sailele,
Mm,
and my mothers were the traditional Samoan moms.
yeah.
E sululau I pe e alui whafumar whale, ai alui
Yes.
I maoka o whawhiangainga, I lolau ku malau savali malau ngofo ke ngofo ai.
Mm,
So, very traditional. And I think in a way, it made me grow up more liberal
yeah.
in my teenage years to my early 20s.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't until I moved to Hawaii, where I finished off my high school studies and university, where I learned what it meant to be without home,
Mm,
uh, where I learned what it meant to be without my community.
mm,
Um, and it wasn't until then I realized like the privilege that I had to grow up around my culture and my language, and so I think my upbringing and my making in terms of how my parents raised me
mm.
is a reason that I am the way that I am now and how I carry myself. And I always say, my upbringing is just like every other young Samoan girl
Of course.
or Tamaitai Samoa.
Mm.
E whawhanga I upu makala ia a le work foi upu makala ia wo whasi foi
Whaasangara,
pe sasa foi.
whaasangara
So,
puspa'u male.
anyway, so that's the sort of upbringing I come from. It's not unique to me. We've all experienced it, and so beyond the sash and the crown, like we were talking earlier,
Mm,
there's no glitz and glamour to the life. Kai misa o ngo foi foi le kofi o fa tau sala. O ke sa wat fale faia fe aun mako ai.
yeah.
E sa wat fale I loa lava le tofi o tangata I tono lana a ingo tau tua I le ngata I le atunu. I le muta I le tau tua I tua I lo a inga ia whapea fo I lo e ka lesia. And
Male.
so that's a little bit about my background.
Malo. Malo whawhtei mo whaasoa. Kind of touching on your time as Miss American Samoa. Obviously, there would have been so many lessons and so many moments, highlights that were landmarks in your journey. Or, time posts in your journey as Miss American Samoa. Could you maybe share some of those? What were some of the biggest lessons or moments that really shaped your journey as Miss American Samoa?
Mm. Among many lessons and shaping moments of my reign as Miss American Samoa, I think the biggest lesson for me was walking in humility. I think it wasn't until I went through the role of a tausala where I truly understood what it meant to be humble and what it meant to live that and to walk in that and to speak and embodying every essence of the word. And it also taught me a lot about myself and also the culture and I think if there's one lesson or takeaway that I can reflect on is sometimes life will not always go your way, but it's the way that you react that will speak to your character. And so for me, as Miss American Samoa, I had carried every little girl and every Samoan woman, no matter if you were from American Samoa or in Samoa, and as well as, in the United States or New Zealand, Australia, e le'i whaatua o ia la o lo mawhauwhaunga I le tofi o tamaitai Samoa, o tamaitai Samoa lava o le Samoa. And so for me, it was important that I carried myself in such a way where it fairly represented our women. And I think one of those shaping moments as well was coming off of the competition in the Solomon Islands. Obviously, it was a tough loss, not only personally for me, but for my entire country. But, in that moment, it meant so much more than winning for me. In that moment, for me, it was how I react is the example and the legacy that I will leave behind for every little Samoan girl to look up to. E monele upu a malo whaatamali a malolo foi te malolo whaatamali. So I think that was one shaping moment for me as during my reign was being taught that winning just in general in life and because I have naturally I am very, very, very competitive, extremely competitive. So it was a life lesson for me that will always resonate for me for the rest of my life, is that sometimes in life things will not go your way and you will not always win, but it is the lessons and the experiences that you walk away from, and especially the relationships that you get to forge in those moments and on the journey that matters the most.
Absolutely. Malo whawhitai. I'm listening, and I think one thing I do want to respectfully maybe adjust in one of your responses. Took it as a loss, and I think I speak for many people, sis. Where it's far from it, and I've seen what it takes and the pressure and all the work that goes into taking part in something as public as a pageant, and I think you should be commended as well as our other tausalas for taking the mantle and representing, waving the flag for our people, whether you're from American Samoa or Samoa in the West, so I think a lot of people will say it's probably not a loss, but just another chapter that, and so I want to commend you for that. In saying that, there will be young girls, young women who are listening and might want to pursue that path one day and running to be a Miss Samoa, Miss American Samoa. What's one key piece of advice on top of everything that you've already shared? What's the one key thing you would like to gift to them or share with them to maybe aid them in their endeavor in the future?
Yes. Believe in your dreams. If there's one thing that I can give all the young girls, Samoan girls, or just Pacific Island women in general, it's always a hard fight to make it to certain levels, whether that's within your work field or the corporate world, the public or private sector. As Pacific Island women, sometimes we are put within a box, and sometimes also due to certain cultural contexts and whatnot, which I will not get into, we might be seen or expected to be one certain way. But for me, dream big and believe in it. If there's something that I've learned in retrospect now, looking back in all of my my achievements and the things that I had pushed for and things that I wanted to work towards, it would not have come to fruition if I did not believe in it enough. because the people around you, and not even your family, not even your own family or your closest friends, can believe that vision or that dream for you. And for me, like I've always said, in the beginning of my journey as running for Miss American Samoa, it was a spiritual calling for me. So it wasn't just something that I wanted to do to check off my bucket list or
Right.
or anything. I never even dreamed about, one day growing up and running for Miss American Samoa. As a matter of fact, like I was such a tomboy growing up. And when I first, yeah, and people don't believe that because, they constantly see me in this light now where I'm always dressed up and glammed. They can't see that, but you'll ask my family and my brothers and they'll tell you they used to toss me around like WWE style.
Yes.
But you know, since the beginning, it was a spiritual calling for me. And I've learned that as a young woman who sometimes um, the dreams and the visions and the calling that the Lord calls us to, not everybody around you will understand. And I will emphasize when I say that not even your family will understand that. But all you can do is pray and hope that they will support you in it, which I was very fortunate that I had the support of my family and my villages. And, I'm just so lucky. But the word is belief, believe in it, and have faith. If the Lord calls you to it, he will take you through it. But
Mani.
dream big and if you're not if your dreams are not scaring you, if they don't scare you, then dream a little bit bigger. But
Yes.
yes, that's something that I would share is to believe in your dreams.
Beautiful. Malofa vetai. I want to bring our talanoa, our Faasoa this evening. No pun intended. This new program that you've actually, it's not new. It has been kind of a passion project that you were doing while undertaking the crown. Can you tell us a bit about Faasoa Mai? What inspired Faasoa
Yes.
Mai, and at the heart of it all, what's the purpose? What's the message that you're trying to push and convey through Faasoa Mai?
Yeah, okay. Ona ole taimi alani ole afa pupu watu, or I will try to compose everything because if I sing a umi ole fa matalanga I wingo le polo kalame Faasoa Mai.
Yeah.
But ole au tu lava I ole polo kalame o I lo totonu lava ole ngoa Faasoa Mai or Faasoa, and that is to share. When translated in the English language, it means to share. And in the Samoan context, it can mean many different things, to share stories, to share materials, to share food, mea umanga le au fie ko kongo le anga ngu Faasamoa pe au nei Faasoa.
Yeah.
O le tūla le Faasoa ua au tu iai le prokalama o le tu le Faasoa I manatu ma longona. So the emotional part of Faasoa. The idea first came to me in prayer because I knew that I wanted to leave something behind for the youth of my island, for American Samoa, to highlight my platform at the time that was mental health, advocating for mental health. And so from my lived experiences and o te whaitete fo I pea o talanoa I tu o soifua whale mawhauwhaua wai o te le ia onga I don't necessarily have the credentials
Yeah.
to speak on certain things in terms of the mental health field. But I will speak on my own lived experiences as someone who's experienced mental health issues and have witnessed it among my own peers.
Mani.
I would say that a lot of the issues that I went through would have been alleviated or would have been lightened for me if I felt safe enough in my home to talk about it. And I know that sometimes in the Samoan household, it is still taboo to talk about our feelings. which is so peculiar to me because it is very ironic of our, ironic of the Samoan culture because o le anga nuu lava i Faasoa mai i taimi o tatou tua o le Faasoa ma tu whaai.
Mali.
O ina o ngai aingi ngi whaafika o di kokongo o ngu o tamā o tatou nuu o whangai poko poko i kokongo whale. E Faasoa ma whetu whaai. Po le a se whai a se me whai or, se kufo or whaafita oli. And so that is the concept. Po le aikianga o lea kaumawhaia u apalaila I le pokolame le Faasoa Mai. And I will be transparent and say that it is not easy because I'm working with an age group where if the parent is present, they are not necessarily always open to Faasoa, so
it's a very different conversation.
Yeah. The curriculum is still being built, but o le anganga lava I o le polokalame Faasoa Mai, ia o whanga ia tupulanga talavo I American Samoa e tatonu fo'i o si taimi o I luma. Ia pule lofa le li whai ona wha o watu fo'i pe wha a watu I nisi atu motu Pasifika ia wha pe fo'i po Samoa fo'i. But for now, I am still building the curriculum. I'm starting to, I've already made some connections with our Department of Health here and some private organizations here to see how we can collaborate. But the vision for Faasoa Mai is much bigger. I'm just not there yet. But for now, I relaunched it as of last Sunday. And now the goal for Faasoa Mai is to tell the stories from American Samoa so that the youth and just people in general who maybe grew up in America or New Zealand or Australia, wherever in the world, can see these stories and know that they have roots here, that they have, a sense of belonging here in home. And so o se tamawhainga fo'i ia whaawa pēa ma toe whanu ia tūwanga wha Samoa, tala mai Samoa, to promote the Samoan identity. Alo whasinomanga, and whasinomanga is one of my favorite Samoan words. And it is something that I truly believe that tupua e tamaititi e loa lona whasinomanga. E loa lona ngana, e loa lona nganguku. It's hard to get lost in this world when you know who you are. And so e pe o tamawhainga langa, le o tamawhai I Faasoa Mai, ia tell the stories through digital platforms. So Facebook and TikTok and, you name all the social media platforms. Our children these days, they have it, and so for me, it's, it doesn't hurt to try and put these stories out there. And, our kids are already scrolling on social media and they're consuming information at an accelerated rate. We might as well put something out there that's useful to help not only preserve our culture, but promote the Samoan identity.
Malo. I'm ole fisili tu sa. Pe ona mali e lo sau noanga le. Ili fisili le o mai atu nei. Some of these conversations can be difficult. I maise lava ia le toinga Faasoa lea. Like you said, when our parents are in the room, or when parents are in the room, and when our children, our youth are posed with certain questions, the responses are very different when they're in the room and when they're not in the room. Or for whatever reason, e tofu lava le tangata ia ma na ia mafuanga, but obviously there's do you have that fear? And anyway, are you at all worried, or is there a fear of what might, not that there will be, but there's always a potential for it. There'll always be people who aren't on the same page or who aren't on board with what's happening. Do you have a fear around that?
Like personally for myself or for
I
the
mean, it
youth?
could be for yourself, or I mean, just for the program in general. Like speaking up,
Mm,
speaking up is a courageous thing, and it's also a scary thing, especially when it comes to topics that can be difficult to have, and sometimes the bite back can be somewhat interesting.
so,
Do you have bowling about that, or you just like, no, we're gonna charge through? Like, how do you feel in terms of that?
yeah. I thought of this very early on when I was building the program before it originally launched last year.
Mm,
And for me, I consider it God's work
Mali.
for his children. And for me, there is no room to doubt myself and the work that the Lord has appointed me to if it means saving his children.
Mm,
And of course, it's natural. O le ngā kula lava i o ka Samoa e whai kio. O
Mali.
le a sau mea le e whai, o po o sau mea le angai whai. People are going to talk. And it haunts me every day. The thought of it, it always comes to me every day, and that's why it was important for me when I relaunched it last week, that I had to sort of kind of explain what exactly Faasoa Mai was about because e ko akele lava kaka e le o malama lama lava I le autu o le poloka lame po le a fo'i le winga o Faasoa Mai because again I think mental health is still such a new topic within a Samoan culture now and just even in general in Pacific cultures it's still taboo. Like I cannot have a conversation about mental health with my 70-something-year-old mom. That's
Mm,
something that I've accepted.
yeah.
I like I stated earlier, I grew up in a very traditional Samoan household. Ia, o le fofo lava i o whaapita o li whaapea I tātou mātua o le tatalo.
Mm,
Um, and I've experienced it firsthand. I would cry to my mom about something and, I'm feeling sad about something. She's like, oh, just pray about it, which, of course, prayer and faith, it's very important.
mm,
I will never diminish the significance of the role of our faith within the mental health field.
mm,
But wa ese taimi wa sui taimi wa le
yeah.
toe tutusa taimi o tatou matua ma whanau. We deal with a lot of much more complicated and intricate issues socially
Mm,
today than they did back then, to where sometimes the understanding and which I've accepted this. I will never expect for my parents to understand what I go through today as a 26-year-old today, as
mm,
opposed to what they went through in their time. And I think that's where we offer grace and compassion for our parents for not understanding sometimes the things that we go through as kids and as youth, because they just simply didn't go through it in their time period.
mm,
Anyway, circling back to the doubt and whatnot, it is natural, but again, like I said, I consider it my calling still
mm,
to do this for the kids because right now in American Samoa and across the Pacific, there
mm,
is a drug issue going on.
yeah.
There is a epidemic that is taking hold of our children. And Faasoa Mai is a very, 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 very small and minuscule part of that solution that we need. What I'm trying to do as a cultural activist and mental health advocate is to offer a way se awala e lavea I mai ai tupulanga tala vo mai nei whawhita uli ua tātou peanga iai nei vai tau.
Mm,
And not only the drug problem, but there's also, we're living in a um, technological area where our children are now identifying with whatever they see on their phones.
yeah.
you know. And so among many social issues and challenges that we're facing right now, Faasoa Mai again is a very small part of um, that solution. I'm only trying to offer um, a way for our children to identify with their culture. Le lato whasinomanga, le ngangana, o tūmaanga o le anganuu. And because I truly believe, again, ai loa le tamaititi lona whasinomanga na te loa le awala. You know, it's in a world where people are telling our children who they should be, it's hard it's hard for a child to sway away from what they've been taught if we teach them young.
Yeah.
If we teach them who they are and you know they grow up and they know who they are their identity, the Samoan identity. And I wish that for all Pacific Island nations. I wish that for all the societies within the Pacific region, because all the issues that we're currently facing right now in American Samoa, such as the drug epidemic, they're facing it in Fiji, you know, they're facing it in Samoa right now. We are not unique to these problems, and we have to find a way to save our children, you know, and again, Faasoa Mai it's just a small part of that. So yeah, the doubt is there, but the passion and the love to save our children is way more.
I love that.
Sorry, that was long. That was
No,
long.
not at all. Not at all. I think it's o falling over ia o le nau o le anganga o le nau fo ilea mo tātou tupulanga I miss tātou whanau I miss, you know, our Samoan, the next generation that's coming through, and even our generation, you know, and so whawhetai lava mo le whaasoa. Looking, you know, the bigger picture, obviously Faasoa Mai is one aspect or one part of the work that you're doing, and in terms of moving forward, what's the big picture for Pauliana? Obviously, you have Faasoa Mai, also some very exciting news for maybe the future. I won't say that on air, but I know people, if you know, you know, for you. But in terms of the next 5, or whether it be short-term, long-term, 5 or 10 years, what's the bigger picture, as well as alongside Faasoa Mai and everything else that you've got going on? What are some of the goals, or what's the vision, is what I'm trying to get at. What's the vision for Pauliana?
Yeah. The vision long term is always to remain home and serve my people
Yeah.
and serve at the feet of my people. Long term, I most likely will remain in government. Just career wise, those are some of the goals. I would like to go back to school and you know, learn a little bit more um and also teach. I want to get in the classroom and teach. You know, I love kids. I love being around the children. I truly believe that investing in them means investing in our future. So I would love to get into teaching, and on a personal level, hopefully find a date to get married and have a family.
Yes, we love that. We
Yeah.
stand that.
Yeah. But you know, that'll all come into fruition in God's time. But
Andy.
yes, like I said, you know, I truly am praying over Faasoa Mai, and you know, I think maybe a couple months from now you will be seeing new faces on the Faasoa Mai. I want to train the next generation to come and take over, you know.
Yeah.
I want them to be passionate about researching their villages and, you know, in American Samoa, and have them take over, you know, wo mawailau kaimi inuma kamela wo whaisinga umi. So yeah, those are some of the goals pule alofa le ali'i o a kwai whaalokia kwai i fuafuanga.
Malo whawhetai. As we wrap up our talanoa, our humble chats this afternoon, ia, tu atu lewa noa, te tono lo o to tele ni nisi o taua inga, ia, wo mai masani o lo tapua ia lau interview le fiafi. Tu atu lewa noa, if you have any alofaangas, any alofaanga fia momoli, ia, I wo mapaanga, e maisi taua inga lo o whafonga mai. Tu atu lewa noa, me le ngang whaloalo.
Yes, I did not share this interview with many people except for my fiance and one of my sisters. So thank you guys for
Mm.
praying for me and saying a little prayer for me before I hopped on. My family, my villages, and the youth of the Pacific Islands. And I may say foi tātou i nei te tuila ma manua whapea tu mōmpule le ngalo atu o tau.
Yeah.
Ia pena foi le mea o e au mawai ia lau sunga le. E o whatau tai e tātou pokalame le nei aso i Aotearoa. But shout out to all my loved ones and also shout out to Rimani in Samoa. Yes,
Yes.
support local. I always support a mix of our local designers both here in American Samoa and Samoa. So
Yeah.
shout out to Rimani. I had their top on right now.
Very nice. Have to drop the plug, man. No, thank you very much, sis, for your time again. Thank you for joining us on the show. And I know, ele o le ato e maua se isi ava noa tātou te whaasoa ai I nisi fo i o ngā luenga. It's very rare that we get to check in and you know speak to our family over on in Tutuila. So look forward to catching up again. We wish you all the best with everything that you're going on. Especially we wish nothing but success for Faasoa Mai, and we look forward to further connecting and following the journey. Ia, mai se ia tuatu lumo le tua I talasanga ia nisi o whamoemoenga le ngati ngaruenga ia a o le lua aso fia foi mo le uso ia mataio lo fatu si uso. But for now, take care. Thank you again, and God bless.
Thank you.
Samoa e o le tātou whatanoanga nā ma le tūwhine a Pauliana Angel Felise-Vitale all the way from American Samoa. Whamai atu e le tātou hamo chats I le nei a fiafi.